Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Quick story time for you. So, after reading or hearing about how 300,000 Black women have lost their jobs over the last, 30 days or 3 months, I got to thinking about my experience in corporate America as a Black woman in a predominantly white space. And that experience was not good. There are lasting, there were lasting effects of working there and experiencing what I experienced. Now, I knew once the attack on DEI started, I knew that we were the main target. We're the most educated. We were making inroads in business, entrepreneurship, corporate America, etc. I knew we were going to be the main target, although we were not the main beneficiaries of DEI. White women and other groups are and were, right? So to hear the 300,000, I was not surprised, but I was surprised. I was surprised it happened so quickly. But at the same time, I believe these white folks been wanting to do it. You know, they've been wanting to get rid of us because they don't really welcome us into their spaces, especially when we're more educated. They're intimidated by us, right? And that is exactly what I experienced. So back in 2018, I was working for this utility company, only Black person in the department of about 5. There were 2 millennial white women. They were like in their early 30s at the time, and one 60-year-old white woman, and like 3 other white men, and they were in their like late 50s to 60s. All right, so this particular year, a major storm hit, and as the finance group, we were responsible for tracking the cost for this storm. We were all reporting to a different work location. This particular campus, it was actually one building that we were all in, not just my group, but there were executives there, the CEO, CFO, all the big wigs were there, engineers as well. And this was like the command center. And in this particular building, we all had our work, our workspaces. But for us, we were all in one room. So we had to work together all day, like 12 to 14 hours all day, 7 days a week for like 2 months. So I was around these women all day, every day. That in itself was so draining. It was the worst time of my life, honestly. So in this group, it was the 2 white women. I'm going to call them Sarah and Allison. And the older white woman, I'll call her Linda. And myself. So it's the 4 of us. And we're responsible for reporting, gathering the data, reporting, attending multiple meetings with the executives, the leadership, just to get updates, to gather information, to report, et cetera, et cetera. So going into this, we did not have a tool to track the cost. So I took it upon myself to create it. Everybody loved it. Linda, the older lady, loved it. So she was like, okay, you're going to be the one to organize all this information. You other 2, you're going to be the one gathering data. You're going to feed it to me, and she's going to organize it and report it. That was my role, right? So that is what I was doing. Linda, the supervisor, the older lady, she began to take me to all her meetings because I was more familiar with the data. I was familiar with the report, so I was attending the meeting. And then you had the Sarah and Allison who became belligerent as a result. They were so pissed off that I was getting, I guess, the spotlight. I was getting to attend the meetings. I was getting the FaceTime, right? So much so that I don't know which one of them called our boss who was out sick. He was like on FMLA at the time because he had had surgery. And this man, I can tell you stories of how he placated them, how he treated them like little delicate dolls. but I won't get into that. But one of them called him to complain. Hey, she's getting to go to these meetings. We're not getting to go. It's not fair. He then, and keep in mind, he's out on FMLA. He calls Linda, the supervisor, and he tells her, hey, include them on the meetings. I know you got her doing this, but, switch it up sometimes. Don't take her all the time. Take them too. They need the exposure. And Linda was like, what? And of course she complied, but she did not agree with it. And she knew the dynamic. She knew that he favored them. They were like his little dolls. And so that was the start of the drama. That soon escalated to them manipulating the file after hours, like trying to sabotage what I was reporting. And Linda and I realized this because, of course, if you touch a file, you save it, your name is going to be, you're the last person that saved this file. The evidence is there. You created a paper trail demonstrating that you are intentionally going in. They were messing with formulas. They was doing the whole gamut. So instead of Linda addressing them head on, she tells me to start blocking the file. So, of course, I start locking the file, and then they kind of amped up their aggression. They stopped talking to me. Now, keep in mind, it's the four of us in a room all day, every day, and then we're not talking anymore. They stopped talking to me. There was whispers. You could see them just visually whispering, rolling their eyes. I really felt like I was back in high school, And then it got to a point, I don't quite remember how we got to that point, but we had words, and we were in this room, door closed. We had words because I finally asked. I was like, I saw that the file had been, no, after I locked the file, they start to ask questions. Why are you locking the file? And I had to tell them, well, I'm locking the file because you all are going in, making changes to the file, and you don't need to do that. I'm trying to protect the file. And of course, that's when you saw the emotion in them. They were tearing up. It was so wild. It immediately went to tears just in that conversation. And the conversation was as simple as, yeah, I'm locking the file because y'all messing with the file and you shouldn't be messing with the file. I don't recall saying anything other than that. And then it went to tears. And of course, as a Black woman, my first reaction was I got scared. I got scared that I was going to lose my job. Because in that building, not only was the CFO, but HR was there, the president, everybody was in that building. And I know when a white woman starts to cry, it's not going to end there. And so in this conversation, Linda, the older white lady, she's there too. So she decides, okay, let me go get the head of HR. Let me go get her to sort this out. And of course, the fear really kicked in because now I'm like, okay, I'm the only Black woman in here with these three white women. Yeah, Linda seems to have my back, but I don't know how this is really going to go down. This is really going to go down. And so basically HR came in and they was like, hey, if y'all can get this together, we will fire y'all. We are in an important time and we don't have time for this nonsense, which makes sense to me. So we're sitting there. And that's pretty much what the HR lady is telling us. And the two of them start to cry more. And I'm sitting there with all of this fear and anger just building up in me. And I believe I was like physically shaking. I did not say a word. I just sat there. And of course, once HR left, then the word got out across the whole building. They got drama in there. I'm in there making them cry. I could tell that the mood in the entire building changed towards me because the people that I was interacting with on a daily basis, the interactions were changing. right? So we're in this building, they're serving us lunch. We can't even leave the campus. We have to stay in the building. We can take a lunch break, but we got to come back to our assigned location. We can't get in our car. We can't leave for lunch. That's something I've always done since I've been in the workforce. I've always taken a break by detaching during lunch, whether it's just eating in my car, running out to go get something. I've always done it for my sanity, and I could not do that. So it made this experience even more traumatic. So they were serving lunch, and every day at lunch, everybody would gather up, go grab their lunch, go eat it in different locations, but you had to go to the central location to grab your lunch. And a lot of people ate inside of this like cafeteria area. And I could tell people were looking at me different, and it's still a predominantly white space. And I could just feel it in the air. And I had to thug it out with these women for 8 weeks, and they did not talk to me. They were spreading rumors that me and Linda, the older white lady, were mistreating them. And it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing. And it got around the whole company. So even after our storm duty was over, once we returned to our regular hours and our regular work location, they just iced me out. They iced me out. People that were friends with them kind of iced me out too. And those that were not their friend, they were telling me what was being said about me. So I was like a pariah. I was like literally the black sheep in this predominantly white space. And, of course, soon after I left that organization, but I did not realize how much it impacted me, how much it hurt me. You know what I'm saying? It really hurt me because my husband and I, we used to talk about it. And that's where I met my husband is at work. He worked in finance as well. He did not work in my department, but at some point our department did absorb his department. So, we became peers. This is before we got married. So as an outsider, he had heard the stories as well. And, he and I used to joke about it. He was like, yeah, you was a trouble starter. You had those girls crying. And I used to just laugh it off. And then one day, the conversation, I don't know, I think I was always resentful of him not understanding how traumatic it was for me. And then one day I cried in talking to him about it. And I just had to break it down. I was like, you don't understand what I went through. It was demoralizing. It was scary because of me potentially losing my job. It was embarrassing because I'm not the type of person, my work life is my work life. I keep everything else separate. Like my coworkers don't know much about me. So for there to be rumors out there about me really bothered me. And for those rumors to be negative really bothered me. I knew that I was not going to progress in that company as a result. And so it was traumatic. And I say all this to say, back to my original point about the 300,000 Black women who've left the workforce. I'm sure those women have experienced similar situations and probably worse. I do believe the organizations that let them go have always wanted to let them go, because it's one thing about white people. They are really intimidated by our knowledge, our skills, our abilities, our talent. It intimidates them. They will use us for those things, but they resent the fact that they need us. And they are cutting their nose off to spite their face by getting rid of us. And where is this going to lead them? So yeah, they don't like us. They don't like the fact that they have to work for us. And so I knew the first opportunity they got, they would get rid of us. They don't even care that they have to rely on less competent people. They're willing to take that risk. They're willing to lose efficiencies, productivity. They're willing to lose it all just so they don't have to share space with us, just so they don't have to give us the recognition that we deserve. It's sad. It's very sad. And that's why, like I said in my previous video, I couldn't imagine being in the workforce as a Black person today, because now discrimination is legal. And, looking back on that time I had in 2018, I really had a viable lawsuit, but I just wanted out. I wanted out so bad. And I honestly took a lower paying job just to get out of there. It was wreaking havoc on my mental health. That is when I developed, what is it, TMJ? I was grinding in my sleep. I had no idea why my ear was aching. And finally, I went to the doctor. I thought I had an ear infection. And they told me, no, you're grinding. That's because of the stress that I was under. So yeah, although I'm unemployed, I'm thankful that I'm financially okay and that I'm not in that workforce, because I can imagine what Black women are going through. I can imagine what Black men are going through. But just working with white women, oh my God. And like I said, it was like 3 white men in my department. They were not nearly as bad as those white women. Not nearly as bad as those white women. Those white women, they're vicious. And, back in 2018, we did not have Karen in our vocabulary. Those women really Karened out on me, and it was scary. It was scary. So yeah, I just wanted to drop by and talk about that story, get it out there, because like I said, I didn't realize till recently just how much it impacted me emotionally. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.